Good morning, my class 8 students. Hope you all are fine. Now we are going to begin history class. The second chapter, that was from trade to territory, wherein the company establishes its power. I have given you first part of it, first module, wherein we had been discussing about the coming of East India Company, its establishing in India for the trade activities. Later on, it started developing interest in territorial expansion, which we have already seen in the previous module, wherein they had promulgated some British policies. British policies of annexation, British policies of acquisition of territories. And also, two battles were fought, Battle of Plassey and Battle of Buxar. Now in the same series, we would be proceeding with the claim to paramountcy, that is Tipu Sultan. Mysore had grown in strength under the leadership of powerful rulers like Hyder Ali and his famous son Tipu Sultan. Mysore controlled the profitable trade. In 1785, Tipu Sultan stopped the export of sandalwood, pepper, and cardamom through the ports of his kingdom and disallowed local merchants from trading with the company. He also established a close relationship with French in India and modernized his army. Now, the company initially resorted to direct military confrontation, and it was Tipu Sultan who was shrewd enough, and he made sure that Mysore, which already controlled the profitable trade of Malabar coast, where company purchased pepper and cardamom, were to be stopped. And in the meanwhile, he initiated and established good relationships, close relationships with French, and modernized his army. Now, British were furious as they saw Hyder and Tipu as quite ambitious, arrogant, and dangerous, and it was important to control and crush them. 4 wars were fought with Mysore. 4 wars, one in 1767 to 1769, then 1780 to 84, then 1790 to 92, and final 4th war was 1799. It was the last battle of Seringapatam, when Tipu Sultan was killed. Tipu Sultan was killed defending his capital Seringapatam. It was 4th May 1799. And Tipu Sultan, who had this toy tiger, it had a very significant feature. When its handle was turned, the toy tiger roared and the soldier shrieked. So this toy tiger was also taken away by them as a memoir. They said, no, we are going to place it, somehow claiming the victory over Tipu Sultan. And it is kept in Victoria and Albert Museum in London. They took it as a memento from here. Then war with Marathas. Marathas were divided into many states under different chiefs belonging to dynasties such as Scindia, Holkar, Gaikwad and Bhosle. They together were in a confederacy under Peshwa, who became effective military and administrative head based in Pune. Now the idea was, the minute we talk about Marathas, it should click to our minds that bravery, chivalry, they were very brave. And Mahatma Scindia and Nana Fadnis were the two famous Maratha soldiers and statesmen of the late 18th century. Then Marathas were subdued in series of wars. Treaty of Salbai, Second Anglo-Maratha War, then Third Anglo-Maratha War, and the Peshwa was removed. Peshwa was removed and sent away to Bittur, that is near Kanpur, with a pension. And company had complete control over the territories south of Vindhyas. Their whole idea was towards southern region acquisition. Then annexation of Karnataka. Under Lord Hastings, the then Governor General, a new policy of paramountcy was initiated. In this process, British tried to annex small states like Kittur. It was taken over after arresting Nani Channamma and a prolonged war with Rayanna. So somehow it was like very popular support. He destroyed many British camps and records. Who? Rayanna. Rayanna was actually a poor chowkidar of Sangoli. Rani Channamma took to arms and led an anti-British resistance movement. She was arrested in 1824 and died in the prison in 1829. So after her, it was Rayanna who resisted the war against the Britishers. He was caught and hanged by the British in 1830. And after that, the idea was annexation of Punjab. It was precisely that East India Company became worried about Russia in late, say as 1830s. It imagined that Russia might expand across Asia and enter India from northwest region. So idea was they were quite scared. Out of fear, the British now wanted to secure their control over the northwestern region. And so they fought a prolonged war with Afghanistan also between 1838 to 42 and established indirect company rule. Sindh was already taken over in 1843. So it was the presence of Ranjit Singh which held them back. So finally, presence of Maharaja Ranjit Singh held back the company. Sindh was already taken over by them in 1843, and after the death of Ranjit Singh in 1839, two prolonged wars were fought with the Sikh kingdom, and ultimately in 1849, Punjab was annexed. Now British territories were broadly divided into presidencies. Now the time had come for setting up new administration. And as I told in the previous module, wherein I was talking about the policies under subsidiary alliance, I spoke about presidencies, the three presidencies. Yes, there were three presidencies: Bengal, Madras and Bombay. Each was ruled by a governor. The supreme head of the administration was Governor General. Warren Hastings was the first Governor General who introduced several administrative reforms, notably in the sphere of justice. Here the clipping is of Warren Hastings. Now, the idea was new system of justice. Now from 1772, a new system of justice was established. Each district was to have two courts: criminal court and civil court, that is Faujdari Adalat and Diwani Adalat. Maulvis and Hindu Pandits interpreted Indian laws for the European district collectors who presided over civil courts. The criminal courts were still under the Qazi and a Mufti, but under the supervision of collectors. And these collectors were believed to be overall. Now, a major problem was that Brahmin Pandits gave different interpretations of local laws based on different school of thought. That is what they called Dharam Shastras. So, to bring about uniformity, in 1775, 11 Pandits were asked to compile a digest of Hindu laws. So, this was another move. Now, in the meanwhile, the need arose for regulating the activities of British officers who were placed in India. So, the Regulating Act of 1773 was an act of the Parliament of Great Britain intended to overhaul the management of East India Company's rule in India. It was found necessary to regulate the activities of the company in India. Its purpose was to take a step towards removing the political power from the hands of trading company. under the Regulating Act of 1773, a new Supreme Court was established, while a Court of Appeal, the Sadar Nizamat Adalat, was also set up at Calcutta. So it was the principal figure of an Indian district was collector, and as the title suggests, his main job was to collect revenues and taxes and maintain law and order in his district. With the help of whom? With the help of judges, police officers and darogas. So now his office, that is the collectorate, became the new center of power and patronage. So now I would like to elaborate a little, that is about Regulating Act. As the term itself suggests, Regulating Act, to regulate the activities of the British officers who were posted in India. In fact, it was found that people, that is peasants, basically Indians, they were having annoyance towards Britishers. Reason being that these British officers started the exaction of revenue according to their own whims and fancies. They were not at all following the rules or the laid down norms which are set up by the company, because they did not know for how long they are going to be placed in India. So they did not want to leave any opportunity of accumulating wealth. So they started acquiring wealth, exaction of revenue, whatever had to be given to the company, it was okay, and rest of it was going in their own pockets. With the result, there was lot of hue and cry amongst the people and lot of resentment towards the British paramountcy. So it was the high time to keep a check on these officers, and under this act, Regulating Act of 1773, it was desirable that these officers should submit time to time a written report to the company. Now, here I was trying to show you this clipping of where these officers are sitting, and it is designated to be a court. Right? Now, time arises when the company's army needs to be taken care of. The colonial rule in India brought in some new ideas of administration and reform, but its power rested on its military strength. The East India Company adopted the same method as that of Mughals when it began recruitment for its own army, which came to be known as Sepoy Army. As warfare technology changed from the 1820s, the cavalry requirements of the company's army declined. Now, Mughal army was mainly composed of cavalry, that is sawars, trained soldiers on horseback, infantry, that is paidal or foot soldiers, and they were given training in archery, that is tirandazi, and the use of sword, of course. The cavalry dominated the army, and the Mughal state did not feel the need to have a large professionally trained infantry. The rural areas had a large number of armed peasants, and local zamindars often supplied the Mughals with paidal soldiers. Now, when they are following their methodology of recruiting the people, the soldiers, as soldiers, this was known to them already. And they knew that Mughal successors, states like Awadh and Banaras, started recruiting peasants into their army. So here they followed the same pattern. Now the soldiers of company's army had to keep pace with changing military requirements and its infantry regiments, as they were armed with muskets and matchlocks. What are they? Musket, a heavy gun used by infantry soldiers. And matchlocks, it is an early type of gun in which the powder was ignited by a match. So muskets and matchlocks when fighting in Burma, Afghanistan and Egypt. In early 19th century, the British began to develop a uniform military culture. So uniform military culture, soldiers were increasingly subjected to European style training, drill, and discipline that regulated their life far more better than before. Often the caste and community feelings were ignored in building a force of professional soldiers. There was no space for this, there were no place for this. So finally, the East India Company was transformed from a trading company to a territorial colonial power. By 1857, the company came to exercise direct rule over about 63% of the territory and 78% of the population of the Indian subcontinent. East India Company had virtually the whole of India under its control. So the idea was the arrival of new steam technology in the early 19th century also added to this, wherein it would take them anywhere between 6 to 8 months to travel to India by sea. So it was easy for them to keep coming and going. Steamships reduced the journey time to 3 weeks, enabling more Britishers and their families to come to far off countries like India. So earlier it was taking months together, now it was taking them only few weeks to reach to India. So now with this, I wind up the chapter. We come to an end of this chapter. Now, what could be the assignment which you can enjoy doing? Any assignment? Yes, here I am giving you a map work. Map work, it is very interesting. Interesting why? Because it would not take much of your time. Creativity, you have enormous. Now in a world map, locate and mark the routes to India in the 18th century. As I have already told you that they took the route from Cape of Good Hope to India. And where in India? The port cities. So which were the port cities? Bombay, Madras, Calcutta. Canton Port, Canton trade. It was very popular, the Canton Port. So somehow you would be requiring the world map and you would be covering up the sea route from British Island through Cape of Good Hope, reaching to India. So southern region of India has to be marked. Now southern region of India will be clearly depicting these regions. Southern region here, Bombay, Mumbai as we call it now, then Madras, and then towards eastern part, wherein Calcutta. So you would be enjoying, I think you would enjoy. I believe you will enjoy because you have been doing the map work in school. And as always I had been saying and telling you, please make the outline, mark the outline, make it colorful. Although the region of ocean is generally given as blue, no hassles, but the rest of the map you can color it, the regions wherein you are going to mark that sea route, from where to where. Use colors, make the outline of the map with any of the colors, sketch pen, whatever is available with you. And yes, regarding the world map, if you are having it with you, good enough. If you don't have, you can download it or you can simply draw it freehand. There's not much to worry about it. And wherever you have been doing the assignment, if you have made any copy, if you have any notebook with you, you can paste it there, or simply you can keep it with you, or when we meet then you will show it to me and then we'll check it, because it's nothing of importance. The whole idea of giving you an assignment is to ensure your understanding. And why I've given you this world map assignment? So as that it is to be noted. And with this, here as I told you, this map, world map, and India in 18th century, this has to be done. Clear? So with this I end up the chapter, and enjoy doing the assignment. Thank you. Stay safe.